Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Thai human rights defenders harassed for documenting military abuse. Nepal's transitional justice body extend deadline for conflict-era complaints. Human rights violations continue in Papua and West Papua. Talaandig tribe evacuate homes to escape paramilitary violence in the Philippines. Urgent appeals from Bangladesh and Indonesia. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I am Julia Roblondo. Beginning with Thailand this week, 3 human rights defenders have been accused of criminal defamation and violation of the Computer Crime Act for publishing a report detailing 54 cases of torture by the Thai army in the country's southern provinces. The 3 are Pornpen Khongkachonkiet, director of the Cross Cultural Foundation, Somchai Homlaor, president of the CrCF, and Anchana Heemmina, president of Duay Jai group. All 3 are co-editors of Torture Report and have worked extensively on human rights issues in Thailand. Since the launch of the report on 10 February 2016, the Thai army has been threatening the 3 editors and the human rights groups involved in the documentation of torture. On February 11th, Army spokesperson Major General Pornpen accused the groups of fabricating accounts of torture to obtain funding from abroad. He also asked whether or not the groups had the mandate to investigate the work of state officers, threatening them with criminal defamation. Prior to the current complaint filed at the Yala Muang police station on 17 May 2016, in September 2014, both Mr. Somchai Homlaor and Ms. Pornpen Khongkachonkiet, as well as their organization, faced a criminal defamation and computer-related crimes charge filed by Paramilitary Unit 41. The case was eventually dropped by the decision of the public prosecutor in June 2015, following an international campaign denouncing the Army's harassment and intimidation of human rights defenders for their legitimate work. Next, Nepal's Transitional Justice Body Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons have extended the June 16 deadline by 1 month to register complaints related to conflict-era cases. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Commission of Investigation on Enforced Disappeared Persons have collected testimonies on serious human rights violations that occurred during Nepal's 10-year-long armed conflict. The bodies have a 2-year mandate with possible 1-year extension to look into criminal cases from the decade-long Maoist insurgency. The remaining 8 months of the Commission's tenure seem inadequate to investigate more than 14,000 extrajudicial killings, 1,400 incidents of enforced disappearance, and thousands of cases of torture, internal displacement, and disability. Before the commissions were formed, there were high expectations that they would address all elements of conflict-era violations. However, when they started performing poorly, it became apparent that the addressing of victims' needs and suffering was an illusion. The recent deal made by the CPN-UML and the Maoists to withdraw cases against wartime atrocities has further threatened the justice for the victims. To learn more, Just Asia caught up with General Secretary of Conflict Victims Common Platform, Kumar Bhandari.
We have already submitted our memorandum to the both commissions, TRC and the Disappeared Commission, and also we have requested both commission to extend the deadline because there are thousands of victims still left behind the process and still they don't know the information, what will happen about the process and about their complaints and other things. So I think the Disappeared Commission already extended their deadline for another month, and TRC is preparing to extend today for 1 month. I'm very much sure that both the commission will be, open up the deadline for longer.
Yeah.
And also throughout this process, and we have a very little hope and expectation with the commission that they will deliver the justice. And our, only expectation from this commission are, if they really work for the victim, they can establish some truth, and also they can prepare and recommend the reparation policies to the government. Nepal context, in the post-conflict context, there are many powerful people, both in bureaucracy and security forces and in the political parties. They are still there. They still serve the state forces and also the political parties. So they all are there, and there is no vetting process. There is no responsibility and accountability issues that state has established. So in this context, in a very perpetrator-led process, so we have a fear and threats every day that they cannot deliver justice, and they have not prepared the very suitable environment for the victims, where victims can freely and openly go and register the cases and have expectation with the commission. We victims, actually from both sides of victims, from Maoist rebellions and the state victims, we have come together and then we have been fighting together. And it's a very, from individual suffering to collective activism, we have practiced our own healing and reconciliation approach, and then we have been supporting the process. But the state never realized this, and they have never asked, what are the victims' priorities and needs in the process. So they have completely, neglected the victims' participation in the whole process, and then there is no representation and ownership for the victims. So in this process, and then we have a very little trust with the this commission mechanism and the state and approaches that, they are just, adopting the exclusionary approach in the whole process. First, they have to ask victims, what are their needs and priorities. And in most of the time, the state and the political parties, they have thought and discussed through the very narrow legal lens of the transitional justice process, and at the same time, they have forgot about the social, economic, and cultural aspects of the transitional justice, and most importantly, the psychosocial aspects. There are many victims. They are excluded from the process. They are poor from the rural villages. They have no access to health, education, and jobs. So there are many problems, and also at the same time there is a fear, and threats are there, because the perpetrators, both from political sides and the security forces, they are threatening the process. They are derailing the process. Even they are not only controlling the process, but they are destroying the evidences and weakening the process. So in this context, I would not say that this is very victim-centric, but for the victims, they have to be responsible, they have to be accountable, and so we are raising the question of transparency of the commission. This is not transparent at all, and we are raising the question of accountability. They are not accountable to the victims. We are raising question of participation. There is no, complete participation or meaningful participation of the victims. There is no representation. And so, we haven't felt the ownership with this process there. This is victim-centric, and this is for the victims. For the logical conclusion, they have to develop a partnership with the victims, and they have to take confident, for the victims' right, and also the state should ensure the victims' right to truth, justice, and reparation. The state and the political parties, they have not understood these all, right to know the truth, getting justice, and also the reparation. These are not the rights. They are, in the recent, regulations of the Act, regulation of the Commission, they have removed the word reparation as a right, and they have used the word facilities and the concession. So that's why, even the state is not interested on the reparation policies. And so this is not victim-centric from that perspective also.
Next, the human rights situation in Indonesia's provinces of Papua and West Papua has shown no progress in the past year. Despite President Joko Widodo's election promises of prioritizing the two provinces, human rights violations conducted by Indonesian security forces remain rampant there. The Paniai case, for instance, where 4 Papuan children were shot dead, 2 adults seriously injured, and 17 others injured in a brutal attack by security forces, occurred on 28 December 2014, 2 months after President Widodo was inaugurated into office. Until now, the National Commission on Human Rights has not begun any investigation into the attack. Recent months have seen local indigenous Papuans face extreme restriction of their right to freedom of opinion and peaceful assembly. On April 5th, around 12 protesters were taken into police custody after holding a public protest in Mimika, while on May 2nd, some 2,300 indigenous Papuans peacefully protesting in Jayapura and other Papuan cities were arrested. Though many of them have been released, the arrests have caused considerable public fear and trauma. While the Indonesian security forces are causing various human rights problems, the justice institution in Papua and West Papua provinces do not function and have failed to provide justice for victims. The government, meanwhile, is prioritizing the international investment and infrastructure rather than protection and human rights for local Papuans. To learn more, Just Asia speaks to Mr. Peñas Lokbere, a human rights defender from Papua.
Ya, saya pikir situasi real di Papua hari ini, terutama sekali memang dari sejak 2011 sampai dengan 2016 ini tidak ada jaminan sama sekali persoalan ini berkaitan dengan akses menyampaikan pendapat di muka umum. Itu sangat susah sekali untuk di Papua. Pembungkaman demokrasi terutama oleh negara dalam hal ini institusi TNI Polri sangat sulit. Dan apa yang terjadi adalah bukan orang masih belum menyampaikan pendapat di muka umum, tapi mereka sudah ditangkap dulu, diusir dulu. Sementara orang masih mengajak ke publik untuk melibat, membagi selebaran, mengajak ke publik untuk ikut bersama-sama menyuarakan ketidakadilan yang terjadi di tanah Papua. Tapi mereka lebih dulu ditangkap, disiksa, dan itu terjadi terus sampai hari ini. Itu berkaitan dengan soal kebebasan berekspresi. Yang kedua adalah persoalan kasus-kasus pelanggaran HAM yang memang salah satunya adalah Wasir Wamena yang sudah diinvestigasi oleh Komnas HAM. Sampai hari ini negara sengaja mengulur-ulur waktu, sampai hari ini tidak ada keseriusan negara, dan sampai hari ini kasus tersebut masih mandek di Kejaksaan Agung. Lalu menyusullah kasus Paniai berdarah tanggal 8 Desember 2014. Kasus ini terjadi di depan mata ketika masyarakat Papua di Narotali Paniai yang sedang persiapan untuk mengadakan Natal. Lalu kasus ini terjadi di depan mata dan terjadi ada 4 anak-anak sekolah yang dibunuh secara sadis dan 1 orang meninggal setelah disiksa oleh aparat. Kasus ini juga dari sekian banyak institusi termasuk TNI Polri, Komnas HAM dan gereja dan NGO melakukan investigasi, tapi sampai hari ini para korban dan keluarga korban mengharapkan bahwa kasus ini terjadi di depan mata dan pemerintah harus serius untuk mengungkap aktor-aktor pelakunya. Sampai hari ini juga walaupun Komnas HAM telah membentuk itu tim headlock, sudah di SK-nya sudah keluar, tapi sampai hari ini kinerja tim headlock itu juga tidak jelas. Itu juga sampai terjadi hari ini. Jadi penegakan hukum sampai hari ini tidak jelas. Dan yang terakhir sekali adalah situasi real di Papua hari ini adalah sangat represif militer.
Moving to the Philippines, the Dalamanse paramilitary group has caused 108 indigenous families to leave their homes in Agusan del Sur, fearing for their lives. On May 16th, 468 Talaandig individuals sought sanctuary some 50 kilometers away in Zelovia village. Although the local government units of Zelovia and Talacogon and San Luis Community Lumad High School are helping the evacuees by providing rice, the supplies are not enough to feed all the families. The Dalamanse paramilitary group operates under Almara, the biggest paramilitary group in the region, terrorizing the populations of Bukidnon, Agusan del Sur, and Davao del Norte. Led by the Bocalas brothers, the group has killed many Talaandig and Banwaon residents in the boundaries of Agusan del Sur and Bukidnon. Their most recent victim was Datu Mangsulbadan Lalian, the Lumad community's supreme chief, killed while fishing in Talacogon. After his death, the Lumad residents feared going to their farms, forests, or anywhere in their ancestral lands, fearing an encounter, the Bocalas brothers. Seeking help from the municipal government, the Lumad residents were advised to come to the city to seek support. Earlier victims of the delamancy include Louis and Dainon Handayan, who were shot on 6 July 2015, killing Dainon. Obed Pabiana was killed as he was on his way home to visit his family in September 2015. October 2015 saw an ambush of the group of Talandig farmers who were gathering fruit from their farm in Cabasalang, Bukidnon. Witnesses saw one of the Delamansi brothers, Manlumakad, hack to death one of the farmers after wounding him with a gunshot. Although many cases have been filed against the Delamansi group and last year warrants of arrest were also issued, no one has yet been arrested. Similarly, the child of Datu Mansul Badan has also filed a case against the Bocalas brothers, but there is no update yet. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 2 stories from Bangladesh and Indonesia. In Bangladesh, Mr. Boli Mansoor Ahmed remains disappeared since the police arrested him 3 years ago. The Fatik Chari police of Chittagong district arrested Ahmed from his uncle's house at 4:30 a.m. on 27 March 2013. Recently, his family held a press conference to demand his return. In Indonesia, the AHRC received updated information on the murder case of Mr. Indra Pelani, a land rights activist. Judges did not take into consideration the alleged involvement of the company behind the perpetrators and convicted 5 defendants, giving them only a light punishment. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.